Today was the day of redemption. Yes. Fuks just now, right after he took that action I showed here in the morning video, he practically broke with the group. Most of the ministers believe there was a coup, and they are punishing and arresting innocent people. Fuks exposed everything. Nothing was left. He unmasked most of them, from Gilmar to Xandão to Dino to all of them. Look, there's a total revolution going on in there. Fuks even asked to leave the first panel so he wouldn't be part of these atrocities anymore, like Moraes, Carmen, Lucia, Dino, and Xanin. Of course, the ones appointed by Lula, and also those who supported Lula, have been doing this. I'll show everything here. Hit like, it really helps. Join our family. So, look, it's over. It's done. Fucks, look at that. Let's go. The first thing he did, right? That was... To mess things up, Fuks tells Fakin he's interested in moving from the first to the second panel. He sent a formal letter to the court president. Guys, it breaks your heart. It breaks our hearts to know that. Fakin, because the level is so bad. It's so bad. Because honestly, we don't even know which one is the least bad, right? He told Fachin he wanted to leave the first panel, saying he no longer wanted to be part of these atrocities. Fuks gives the first panel to Minister Alexandre de Moraes, as I said. The magistrate was the only one. Vote to acquit President Bolsonaro. Today, he also voted to acquit all the defendants from the core group of the coup plot. All of them. He practically exposed this little coup story. The minister told Fachin he wanted a seat on the court's second panel. The panel is made up of Gilmar Mendes Nunes, Marques Dias Toffoli, and Andre Mendonça. The Supreme Federal Court's second panel is understaffed, with only 4 ministers. Since Fachin left the panel to take over the presidency of the court, Luiz Roberto Barroso was supposed to take Fachin's place, but he retired early. I expressed my interest in joining the second panel of this Supreme Court, considering the vacancy left by the retirement of Luiz Roberto Barroso. The Supreme Federal Court's internal regulations provides that a justice from one panel has the right to transfer to another if there is a vacancy. If multiple requests occur, the most senior justice gets preference. But since it's Carmen Lucia, and she showed no interest, for sure, Fuks will now join the second panel, leaving this behind so he doesn't put his fingerprints on this atrocity anymore. And the United States, Donald Trump, keeping track of everything that's happening. Look here, let's check out Fuks.
Your Excellency, you know as well, I know as well. This is not the first time that a presidential candidate has challenged the Superior Electoral Court regarding the regularity of the elections.
Oh.
On October 30th, 2014, Your Excellency was already in the judiciary or in the government. One of the two, judge or government. That electoral court, it was prompted by the party of the defeated candidate to carry out a special audit. At that time, it was another candidate. A special voting audit by the defeated candidate's party. Instead of outright rejecting or criminalizing anything or imposing $1 billion fine and labeling it as an attack on democratic institutions, the Superior Electoral Court made the wise decision to authorize the audit. If I'm not mistaken, I was at the Superior Electoral Court, and later they presented their results to society, indicating that no fraud was found.
Look at what Fuks says here. In 2014, Aécio Neves was suspicious of the electoral process, went to the Supreme Court, and requested an audit. The audit was done, the investigation was carried out, and nothing was concluded. Then what happened was the years went by. When it happened with Bolsonaro and he showed everything that was going on, Moraes went there. To provoke, President Bolsonaro's number was 22. he issued a fine of 22 million reais for the Partido Liberal to pay. It's surreal. Then he said, wait a minute. With Iadzio, it was one thing. Now with Bolsonaro, it's another. What kind of justice is this? Where is there justice in that? No, there isn't. What they're doing is really opening the way so that Inácio will never be held accountable for anything. That decision by the court was just thrown out. Anyone who talks about Frei Chico, the guy is in the union, the second one who harmed workers the most. You can't say anything about Frei Chico. Man, what kind of dictatorship is this? The judge went there and made the decision. What kind of outrage is this? So, the guy is a saint then? A saint on earth? These guys are joking. Look here, huh? Fuks says that the Supreme Court committed injustices in the January 8th trial. He confessed here, my conscience no longer allows me to support this anymore. The minister justified the change in stance when he acquitted 5 defendants, including President Bolsonaro, after convicting hundreds of people who were present at the events in Brasilia. He deeply regretted it and realized something was very wrong, that something fishy was happening. Diego Mugeto. He said something wise here. Diego Mugeto. Luis Fuks asked for his own vote back to correct grammatical aspects. At first glance, it seems like a bureaucratic gesture, almost trivial. But in the Supreme Court, no move is innocent, especially when the vote in question is the only one that acquitted Bolsonaro. By retrieving the text, Fuks consequently halts the publication of the ruling. Without a published ruling, there is no appeal period running. It's time bending to the will of someone who knows how to play legal chess with the hands of a watchmaker. The practical effect is unequivocal. The final judgment, previously expected for this year, is pushed to 2026. And Bolsonaro, instead of being a confirmed defendant, remains a figure still in contention. Call it a grammar review if you like. But what Fuks actually did was put a comma in time. And every comma in politics can change the meaning of a story. Entirely. That's a point, a fact that we're observing here. That's a fact, it's evident. Now I want to show you that Karina Michelin, another decision by Fuks. Guys, everything is going to change. He dropped a bomb, a real bomb, in the plenary of the Supreme Federal Court, when he voted for the acquittal of 7 defendants that he voted from the disinformation group. He admits that the court committed injustices in the January 8th trials and declared that he can no longer maintain the same positions he took. In the heat of national commotion, it takes more courage to be just, even if it seems unjust, than to be unjust just to safeguard the appearance of justice. In a mea culpa tone, Fuks acknowledges that the Supreme Court acted out of urgency and passion, and that time and conscience no longer allow him to maintain the same understanding. It was a rare speech, almost a confession, but the Supreme Court justice admitted that the court was wrong. The vote was broken. Fuks broke away from Alexandre de Moraes' stance, who called for the conviction of the accused, and with opposition from Cristiano Zanin, who sided with Fuks. Isolated, he said that the actions were disorganized and lacked coordination. It does not constitute a coup d'etat, and preparatory acts cannot be treated as crimes of violent abolition of the democratic rule of law. Fuks' gesture was a direct message to the court, which for months has been accused of acting like a political tribunal and of overriding constitutional guarantees. There is no greater disgrace for a judge than to agree with his own mistake. Earlier, the minister formally requested a transfer from the second panel. Let's take a look.
Judicial humility is a virtue that, even when late, saves the law from petrification and prevents justice from becoming an accomplice to injustice. The judge should not seek consistency in error, nor submit to labels that imprison his conscience, whether as a punitive judge or as a guarantor. The only label that honors the judge is that of justice. by respecting due process and giving each person what is rightfully theirs according to the law, always observing proportionality. As Calamandre once taught, there is more courage in being just while appearing to be unjust than in being unjust to safeguard the appearance of justice.
Fuks, that was brilliant, guys. What a job he's doing. Still here, look. They accuse of a coup d'etat, but don't point out any concrete actions for it. Look, he says it here. He dissents in the alleged coup trial, stating a WhatsApp joke is being used as evidence. He's finished. He destroyed it. Destroyed.
Made by the defendant in private conversations and deemed criminal. This is the case of the jocular comment made by the defendant on December 17, 2022, sent to Colonel Dugima Nascimento das Mercês about the vacation that a politician connected to the elected president decided to spend in Cuba. Guilherme Almeida joked about the fact, saying that if anything goes wrong, he's already in the asylum. The author of the crime ruins the joke by sharing the state's belief. But he doesn't point out what the concrete executive acts of this supposed coup would be and what the direct participation of the accused was in its execution, limiting himself to transcribing private WhatsApp conversations.
Fuks mocked. Did you notice that here? Keep sharing this video a lot, my friends, with more and more people. He made fun, he basically says here, does what? WhatsApp jokes are now being used as evidence to incriminate people? Ana Paula says here, whether it's out of fear of the northern winds or not, Fuks brings a bit of clarity in the midst of absolute chaos. My previous understanding is that we judge many cases, although based on the logic of urgency. All this urgency that Moraes had was to try to remove President Bolsonaro. Let's remember that Fuks has in his hands President Bolsonaro's case, whether he becomes eligible or not, or ineligible, eligible or ineligible. We're still going to be very surprised by Fuks. Keep an eye on him just so you have an idea. These activists, how can I say this? Reinaldo Azevedo is a disgusting person. He shared it on his social media here. Fu must be reported to international courts for subjecting his fellow justices and the Attorney General to inhuman and degrading treatment. Look at that. He turns his shameful turnaround into a way of thinking and, enamored with his own voice, speaks without restraint, hoping to delay the judgment. Oh, I don't know who he's serving, but it's definitely not the law. They've already thrown Reinaldo Azevedo in, who's irrelevant. He's a piece of crap. This guy is a piece of crap. He's a piece of crap. To go after Fuks, look at that. To go after Fuks. Here on Twitter, the guy is so cowardly. Just so you have an idea, he writes and doesn't let anyone comment. Only people he authorizes can comment. Only the mentioned accounts can reply. That's how these people preach democracy, as long as they're not confronted. And this stooge here is very good friends with this minister here. The other day, Fuks went there and put him to sleep, put Gilmar Mendes to sleep.
So, let's say it always stops, that it doesn't happen. If that's the goal, I hope it gets more serious. No, it's not possible.
The goal is to address the issues responsibly without making them immediate.
I listened to Your Excellency. Yesterday, Your Excellency mentioned legislative quality, but I don't want to discuss it further.
I didn't talk about the quality.
We validated it.
This is the biggest example. It's the biggest example. Here, never. Supreme Federal Court justices can never stay for so many years. It's 4 years at most. Gilmar, because he's the oldest, thinks he's the owner of the Supreme Court. I'm the owner here. Everything has to be done the way I want. And look at Brazil, the way it is. How many men? How many criminals did Gilmar release? The most corrupt in this country's history. Congratulations to Fuks. Huge dignity, nailed it, killed it. Man, these people are gonna have a hell of a hard time from now on. Fuks. But he lifted the black robe, right? He completely dominated them. Share this video a lot. Smash that like button. And come join our family by subscribing to the channel, okay? Tomorrow we'll be back with more news and information here on the Parents and Children channel.